Hello and welcome to Mangaroos. I'm Mark and I'll be your host this week. I've got a very special book pick for all of you and I'm so excited to have my good friends here who have spent the last countless hours reading it, I'm sure. Why don't you introduce yourself? We'll start with
Marathon Woman Spectator, Alex. I'm not joining in the marathon, sorry.
I like you set the expectations early. I like that. And me, the Abebe Bikila of podcasting. It's Jason. Hi. It's good to be here.
You changed a sport for a generation. Thank you so much for being here on the show, as you are every week, obviously. But this week, we are taking a deep dive into a very special book called Marathon Man. It is by the illustrious Inoue Masaharu, who, by the way, I was just checking out his Twitter before this podcast, and he is still writing. He was like, oh my gosh, I'm in Kichijoji tonight, but it's starting to rain.
Nothing's stopping this man.
No, nothing is stopping this man. Who knew that someone who started working in 1991 could still be Gen-eki? That's pretty incredible.
Especially after reading this manga, where apparently he was in his 30s and writing like the 36-year-old protagonist was during his dying days.
Well, he has made it over the hump, and he's still going strong. Yes, so we're taking a look at Marathon Man, but Inoue Sensei has done a lot. This was published in 1993. It was not his first pony ride. It's actually his second book. Came out in 1993 in Weekly Shonen Magazine, which is published by Kodansha. It's given us many, many big hits. But Inoue Sensei, he found his stride with Marathon Man. It's his longest running series. After Marathon Man, he went on to found such illustrious series as Jumpman, Policeman, and Tsunagu.
He designed all of the Mega Man villains.
He designed all the Man series. No, he really had something good going for him. The story of Marathon Man, and we only read volume 1 for this series, but
that's what we do on this show.
Can I blow your minds for just a second? It's not about the dad.
What?
Marathon Man is actually...
He's not the Marathon Man?
Marathon Man is Kazuma. The dad dies pretty early on.
No!
And
I'm assuming liver
You're really breaking
failure.
format here.
I'm breaking format here. It's been a couple of decades. I feel like it's okay. But we'll get into all that throughout the show. But first, I just have to ask you, what do you think? Alex, let's start with you.
I thought, so like, you know how when we were, Mark, you bring the nostalgia. I think you bring the nostalgia to our show, like with Harlem.
And to our lives.
It's all
to our lives.
Yeah.
Like, I was seeing the 70s then, and this time I was seeing, step by step, day by day.
Let's start over.
I was transported back to the 90s, definitely, with this.
For better and for worse.
Yeah, there were so many tropes. There was so many, just unrealistic, corniness. It just, was, an after-school special.
Trope on a
but,
roll.
in a manga. So, I mean, it was fun reading it. It's just, you just have to read it and laugh while you read it.
I think that's a very fair assessment. Jason, how was your experience with Marathon Man Volume 1?
Well, I was both delighted and disappointed that it had nothing to do with the 1976 movie Marathon Man starring Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier. But once I moved past that, I think Alex got it exactly right. I mean, it's so full of nostalgia vibes. It's so 90s in terms of the way it's drawn. It's incredibly emotionally manipulative.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I was just crying huge manly tears one minute and then the next minute, just laughing at the silliness of just everything about it is so over the top melodrama.
No, I completely agree. By the way, I have not cried this much from a manga since Final Fantasy VII when Eris died and she had all my materia.
Wow, you're coming with the spoilers this week, man.
I mean, I learned in Final Fantasy IV when everyone dies, I learned to always unequip people who you think are going to leave your party.
That's
Also, I
a
like
good.
that you,
and die.
I like how those are the biggest tearjerker manga we can think of are Final Fantasy VII and apparently Final Fantasy IV.
Scarred for life.
We're real manga experts over here. The other thing I have to say about this book is it reminded me a lot of the actual the act of running, which I used to do. I don't do it anymore, but I used to run, and this manga was a lot like that for me because the build up to the running, thinking about your reasons for running, thinking about all of your sick running strategies that you're going to employ on your next run.
Did you have a lot of like running strategies when you ran?
No, like when you're into running, you think about
Did you know
next
where
time
the
I'm
wind
do this
was
differently.
blowing?
Of
Do you
course,
know what speed?
I had a little boy ride alongside me with a whistle.
Okay, he
But
was keeping pace. Like
The point I'm building up to is it's really fun to think about your next run and how awesome it's going to be and how awesome you're going to feel after it. But once you're actually on the run, it's incredibly boring. And that was exactly like this manga. Like everything building up to the running and all of the reasons for the running really captivating. I really enjoyed all of that. But then the scenes where the men are actually on the street running were just like incredibly boring to me. Which for a series that's ostensibly about running marathons, I was like, okay, I'm interested to see how this goes for several volumes. But lots of fun stuff in this one, I thought.
Okay, good. No. Thank you both for digging into this '90s treasure trove with me. I wanted to.
Can I just segue? What the heck made you pick this one? Because this kind of came out of nowhere.
It did.
Like I know our theme for this round was sports, but like, I wasn't even aware that this manga existed.
Well, when we started digging into all the sports manga out there, I was struck by the sheer volume of sports manga that were concentrating on like team sports, team play, or whatnot. So I wanted to, or one that you have to at least have another partner, someone to spar with or whatnot, in order to make that sport come to life. I wanted to see what happened with something like running, where you can basically do it by yourself. I mean, yeah, marathon it's a collection of runners, but they're all competing not only against each other, but against yourself, right? Like it's against the record and whatnot.
Got it.
So I wanted to see what a sports manga was that was focusing on an individual sport, like running, and then came across Marathon Man, which I had never read before, but I was hooked.
Okay, wait, you never read it? Okay.
No.
I was like, wait, this must be like a nostalgia thing that Marcus just like had read this and he's like, now's the time for Marathon Man to come out of the closet.
When
like
Marathon Man changed my life back in 1995.
This manga is the reason that Mark is now an alcoholic taxi driver. A lot of people don't know that.
I absolutely dislike how the two come hand in hand. I know we don't get it past volume 1, but later on, when Kazuma, the son, runs into some problems, he also becomes an alcoholic taxi driver, but he moves to Hokkaido. But that's not until volume 3.
Japan does have kind of an alcohol problem.
I honestly can't believe I'm saying this, but I kind of actually want to keep reading Marathon Man now based on what you're saying.
It only gets wackier and wilder.
You're really like raising the appeal because when I read this, I was like, how in the hell will this man ever redeem himself? Like, he's so far fallen. He's like child neglect. Like, he's such a bad father that I'm like, I actually can't really cheer for him because I feel like it's a miracle his kid is like alive still.
Well, good news, you don't have to for long because he dies pretty early.
I know.
Wow.
This is a lot of questions. Okay, so let me ask you this. You come to the end of volume 1 and his son has helped him train for his chance to reclaim his former glory by participating in the Fukuoka International Marathon, which he won once in his early 20s, and he set like a new record for Japan. And then since then, a lot of stuff happened, and basically he gave up running, became a deadbeat dad, alcoholic. Just basically things are going downhill. Also ruined marriage. He still's got a son, which is good. But and also his son is the one who really helps him turn everything around. But at the end of volume 1, you see him, after months and months of training, he's participating in this Fukuoka International Marathon, and he's he's about halfway through the race, and he comes from the end of the pack all the way to the front against this guy who looks like Guile from Street Fighter 2. He looks like he was cut out of glass to win this race. But what do you think? What are the odds that Kazuma is going to come back, or Katsuma is going to come back and win this race and reclaim his former glory? Alex, I'd like to hear from you first.
So, at first, there is the thing about the age where they really dig into the fact that
36.
he's like 36. He's super past his prime. His body is like not able to move anymore.
Literally falling apart.
As someone who is older than 36, I have to say that does feel accurate to me. That feels true to life.
Yeah, but it's like, how will this man ever win? Especially he doesn't seem to remember how to run. And like,
too busy being drunk all the time.
when the race starts,
Is
he
this
just, like,
my
can't
body?
Run. And then he remembers that his kid like set the pace for him with like the whistle blows.
With the whistle.
And then he was like remembering how to run again. So it was a very, very shaky start. But then we find out that he can master the wind because he had been training in a typhoon with his son who knew the secret techniques of wind running. Like, Jason, is this a thing? Wind running? Where the wind propels you?
I mean, I assume it is for like super high level runners. Like, it would make a difference. Like, I know people who play golf and the wind is a huge factor.
Like, I know about golf because the golf ball is so light, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I feel like the wind would
driven
make
and
a
tossed by the
difference.
wind. Absolutely.
I
Can a
have-
person be blown by the wind?
Can a person
Jason,
be
tell us the
propelled
truth.
by the wind?
Well, yeah, I mean, if they try hard enough, absolutely. I mean, I've experienced gale force winds. Well, just the other day, you see people
Yeah,
out there
it
with
was
their umbrellas get turned
Last
inside
night, yeah,
out.
no, that happened to me.
Yeah, and I guess if you were running with that force instead of against it,
You would be really fucking fast.
you'd be like a rocket ship.
Look, I have so many more questions than the wind issue. Like, so
Oh, really? When the wind
yeah,
happened,
so-
I was like, okay, I guess he's going to win now because he has a special
This
power.
is a special
Also, is no one else affected by the wind?
Is someone else equally affected? Yeah.
But, if we imagine him actually running, like if this was not a manga, but if we were watching footage of this man, Katsuma, and this is going to get confusing because the father's name is Katsuma and the son's name is Kazuma. But anyway, if we actually were watching him run, right? I had a lot of fun imagining what his running looked like until the point where he remembered Kazuma's whistle blowing. Because, like, was he just, like, moving along, like, with weird, uncoordinated, like, arrhythmic steps?
Just legs flailing.
Was he just, like, jerking around like a zombie or something?
His first attempt at running, it was terrible.
He couldn't even go 3 blocks.
Tears. He just ran like
And
down the street.
He was a champion marathon runner. in
He
the
had
past.
won 3 marathons.
He was like vomiting next to a pole. Like,
We're all over the place.
Yeah, no, yeah.
What are the odds that he... Look, if it was a real human being situation, pretty much 0. But given that this is a shonen manga, gotta be close to 100%.
Gotta be
right?
close to 100%. Okay, good.
Maybe like 95. I'll put it there. But this is a manga that loves to manipulate your emotions and make you cry. And we know that if he didn't win, then little Kazuma would be, snot
Devastated.
running,
yeah.
tears everywhere. And so too would the reader. This manga wants every opportunity to make you cry.
Yep.
So maybe he doesn't win. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's more like 50-50.
Good. We will reveal the answer at the end of this episode. Okay. Have either of you ever participated in an organized race of any kind? Jason, I'm going to ask you first.
Yeah, and so in the 3rd grade, we had sports day at my school, and there were various different runs. There's the 3-legged race.
3-legged
right?
race? Yeah.
But the one I remember the most was the one where you have to run with a spoon, with an egg on the spoon,
yeah.
and not drop.
Silver spoon.
Yep.
Yeah, not drop the
Egg
egg.
run.
So I did participate in that.
The old
My egg
Humpty
did
Dumpty.
fall down.
Oh,
I did
no.
not win. The idea of running an actual marathon in real life, I think I would probably rather just be dead, to be quite honest with you, if given the choice. Does not
Same.
appeal to me at all. But,
Comparable to death.
yeah, I know people who do it for like ostensibly for fun.
Ah, baby.
Yep.
Like
there are
I'm
those
close
people.
personal friends with Abebe. He's all about that marathon lifestyle. No, I'm not a real like organized races type of dude. What about you, Alex?
I like walking a lot. Is there like a walking competition that I can
power
enter?
walking.
Yeah,
Kyoho.
I mean, I've walked so many hours in one day, like maybe 3 or 4, like when I was really bored and alone.
Just record that with your Fitbit.
Yeah, so I'm really good at not running, walking. Yeah, I cannot run at all.
It's like
Alex,
running.
I'm just combining
slow
this
motion.
with what you talked about last episode about like leading your friends into weird
Oh
fields.
yeah,
and
oh
odd
definitely. Like
The two go hand in hand.
Yeah, it all comes together now. I
my
get it.
sister is like the same way. So
Just
whenever
walking.
we go on trips, yeah, like one time we went to Shangri-La in China.
Holy
It's
cow.
actually called Zhongdian, but like the Chinese government renamed it to Shangri-La.
They can do that?
Yeah, they can.
Wow.
They can do anything. And my sister and I would just be like, "Oh, look, there's a mountain over there with like a stupa on it," because actually there's a lot of like that kind of Tibetan type Buddhist religion in that area. And we would just be like, okay, let's like walk up to that stupa,
Let's check out that
and like
stupa.
we don't know where we're going, where we are.
Alex, I think you might be describing the exact opposite of an organized race.
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite. I'm just like
That's like a choose your own adventure.
chaos walking. Yeah.
Chaos walking. Chaos walking sounds awesome. Sign me up for that shit. Okay. To answer my own question, I've never run a marathon before. I've run a half marathon, and I was also 36 at the time, and
Oh.
I almost died. No, that's not true. It wasn't. It was not that bad.
Did you forget how to move your limbs?
No, not at all, because contrary to popular belief, running is not that different from walking. You just kind of do it faster. Well, you pick up your legs and you just don't touch the ground. You make sure that your feet don't touch the ground at the same time, and then you're running. It's kind of amazing in that way. But I've never run a marathon, but this kind of got me inspired to want to try to run a marathon. And one of the best things about Japan, and I don't know if this is true in other countries because I just don't know enough about running in other countries, but in Japan, the cool thing about running is that there are marathons up and down the country at all different seasons. And
Oh, they love their marathons.
They
like the
love
New
them.
Year's marathon. That's
Yeah.
like a big event.
That's like a huge TV thing that people
Yeah.
all gather around and watch.
the ones on TV are really hard to get into. I've had a few friends who've done Tokyo Marathon, but you have to have like a certain number of points. You have to have like won other marathons or get really lucky in the lottery and whatnot. So the ones that are on TV are really hard to get on, but like you can go and do like, I don't know, like the Nagoya Marathon or the Sapporo Marathon is another cool one that aren't too hard to get in.
Wait, is the Fukuoka one like? Is that like one of the like top 3 Japan marathons? Like, I had no idea how relevant the Fukuoka one was.
Yeah, I did a little digging into this one, a little bit of detective work, and I think Inoue Sensei is from Fukuoka.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
I was like,
I
is
think
there
it was
hometown bias here?
There's a little bit of sending going in
He's
there.
getting a little bit of that tourism board money.
We'll just put this. I had never really heard of that. It wasn't on my radar as a big time as a big time marathon. But I mean, the course looked beautiful. I'm sure it is wonderful. But I think you can call anything an international marathon as long as people are coming from outside of Japan to participate.
Interesting. Well, good luck to you.
To everyone.
I'll be happy to bicycle alongside you with my whistle if you need any help.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'll bicycle along with my 5 stopwatches.
I'll mail you a pair of tiny shorts that says "Gambare Tolo-chan."
now if I had those shorts, then I would have done a lot better in my half marathon.
I would just wear those on a daily basis, to be honest with you.
I don't know why.
Well, in the summer. Let's
Get
be
you through
honest.
the
Maybe not
day.
in the wintertime.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's not on the list, but I feel like one of the most important parts of Volume 1 is the relationship between the dad, Katsuma, and the son, Kazuma.
Well, yeah, that's what it's all about.
I mean, that's what it's all about. So let's talk into that, or let's dive into that for just a second. So first of all, let's talk about the dad, Katsuma. Is he a hopeless deadbeat or a well-intentioned father with a heart of gold? Jason, I'd like to hear your take on this.
I think it's possible to be both. I think that it's this. I feel like the first few chapters of this manga invite like real emotional reflection, despite being quite silly at times. But you know, it just seems like mismatched expectations on the part of Katsuma and his former wife. Because he seemed to be, you know, he was quite happy with just like a low income lifestyle, which is
he was a runner.
perfectly.
How did they? I wanted
valid.
to know, how did they meet? Because he's
Great
like
question.
Running
a
circle.
woman from like from like a wealthy family who
She did
like
not take running
married
that
a lowly peasant man who like couldn't afford her, and I'm just like, wait, how did this happen? How did they?
You know, I
don't
think
know.
Katsuma is a sensitive soul. He was abandoned by his wife, which would have an effect on anybody.
It does, yeah.
So,
no.
It's understandable.
This is coming from a place of knowledge.
I have yet to be abandoned.
I've been abandoned by several wives.
So
up
many
to this point,
and it never stops hurting.
No, it doesn't. And you know, I've been a terrible alcoholic deadbeat multiple times.
Aw.
But you know,
Did
I
you
have,
eat meat out of a can with chopsticks?
And did you buy pony race tickets and just like fall asleep on
Yeah.
the floor?
I eat constantly. You know what I mean? That's all I could think to do.
Constantly
What
eating.
else was I going to do?
Eating to stop the pain.
It's a little easier now in the era of the internet to be a derelict alcoholic. There's just, you got a lot more options at your disposal. No, I think Katsuma he's not a terrible person. I think he has maybe not poor impulse control, but like if you have the drive and the dedication to push yourself to run multiple marathons intentionally, then you're clearly the kind of person who gets really fixated on a thing. You know, so I would say maybe the addiction to alcohol is not so very different from the addiction to, you know, the dopamine high that you get as a runner, right? So I
I
think
see that.
he just picked a different lane, and it was a bad one.
Yeah,
And,
a lane that leads to self-destruction.
Also,
Yeah.
maybe not a great career choice to be a taxi driver if you spend most of your time drunk. That was a little bit of
That was a
It's
red
usually
flag.
not good.
a little dilemma there
In the
for me.
90s, it might have been a little bit easier in Japan. Nowadays, he would have been out of a job super
Yeah.
quick.
Which he was in this manga as well.
Although this one, he hits like a Yakuza guy. With like, and apparently there's no car insurance people like.
And it's not
present.
because he was drunk. It's because he was too
was
sleepy
He
from
was-
all his
he was
marathon
doing all his
training.
training.
It was too
So
sleepy. Yeah.
he was actually a better taxi driver when he was
Right.
just a drunk asshole than once he started trying to. So it's
Apparently
conflicting.
they
man.
didn't
It's a lot.
have like car insurance like middlemen in the
Real
90s
shady
in
taxi
Japan.
company.
They just like
Did you
went
kind of
directly
get
to your place of work and demanded money.
I have a feeling that could absolutely still happen in 2023. You hit the wrong guy's car.
It
But
just rolls
did
up
you
the
get
office.
I got the impression that maybe Katsuma had kind of bounced around. Like maybe he wasn't necessarily a lifelong taxi driver. Like he's probably had a few different gigs here and there.
No, I
You know
definitely,
what
I
mean?
definitely get that the sense of that, and also the house that they were living in. I mean, you still see those houses around Tokyo, and I don't think they were.
Tons, yeah.
I don't think they were any nicer in 1993. I think you're absolutely right. I think he had this dream, it was to be a runner. I mean, I don't think he really had a plan for the future. I think that was just his
No.
thing.
Clearly.
He met his wife to be Misako, I think, and
I
then
think it's Miyako.
Miyako, is it?
Miyako, yeah.
Okay.
It's Miyako. Yeah.
And then they had a baby, but then like within a year of that, of him just like
she was
quitting
like, this
race.
is too average.
too average.
You're
Can't-
average. This baby's average.
I
His
am a
wife is
career
average.
woman. woman, she was
Although
upperly
she's
mobile.
not a career woman because she got there by sleeping with her boss, which I'm like, of course,
Okay.
a 90s manga would be like this. The woman is only successful because she was banging her boss.
Yeah.
So-
It's
'Cause why
impossibly
not?
a successful woman and a moral woman.
At the same
you gotta
time.
pick one or the other.
Princess Diana.
Oh, you can edit this part out. I was gonna. Oh, yes. Here, I made an observation reading this manga. Tell me if this resonates for you.
Okay.
I think that the message of this manga might be that life is much like a marathon.
I think you were going to say that. Yes.
It's not a
And-
sprint.
Wait, so is your pace? What was it? It was 15 minutes.
15
per,
minutes
I
per
don't know,
hour.
like how to. So like I don't know.
Right.
In life, what's
It's 15
your,
minutes
like,
per
good
5 kilometers.
pace? What is like the ideal pace for life if
Well,
it
it
is
depends
a
at
marathon?
what part you are in the
And
marathon.
if the wind is at your back or not.
yeah, exactly. You gotta account for
You
conditions.
know what? I think his wife and he were in different marathons. Maybe that's why their marriage didn't work out.
Yeah, actually, I think you're
She
right.
was in the money marathon and he was just in the average
The having a
person
good time marathon.
The having a
I'm just
good
here to
time.
have fun
He
marathon.
was just enjoying life. Okay, well, let me ask you this question. I'm going to bring it back to the story.
Oh wait, we never talked about Kazuma the baby boy.
Oh, yeah, Kazuma the baby boy. And then, and then we have Kazuma.
We have to spend some serious moments here talking about this child because
This child is like a genius.
he is a prodigy.
Yeah, he's a prodigy.
He has the body of a little person
He
and
does.
the head of a 3-year-old baby.
Yeah, he looks like a 3-year-old.
He looks like a 3-year-old. Now, before we started recording, Alex, you were asking me what are the ages of my children.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2, and one of them is 7 years old. The other one is 4 years old. And the size of Kazuma relative to Katsuma is definitely like 3-year-old, 4-year-old territory. He very much looks like a 4-year-old.
So that's not an 8-year-old.
He allegedly is 8 years old, but he
Allegedly.
acts like he's about 17 years old.
Yeah,
most of the
no, I
time.
definitely get Detective Conan vibes from the stuff that he's pulling.
Also-
So you're not buying the story then. Maybe
Well,
Miyako didn't
here's-
actually leave them 7 years ago when he was 1. Maybe
I
this
don't know
timeline
what to
isn't
believe.
adding up. You know,
I
his dad didn't know what day of the week it is because he was so drunk. So
Also,
maybe he
he
doesn't
never
even know
noticed-
how old his child is.
It took him
Sent to
8
the wrong
years to
grade.
notice that his son looked like a cute little angel when he was sleeping. Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes
Did
it's,
you not
it's the
notice
little things that you just miss when you. When
but
you've got
here's
too
here's
many-
what really all unraveled for me. Okay,
Okay, tell the truth.
why is Kazuma in the 3rd grade if he's only 8 years old?
Wait, I
That
don't know how
shit
grades
does not
work. Is that
add
first
up.
grade? If you're an 8
8
if you're
years old should be 2nd grade.
It should be
second
saying.
grade.
I thought he
You
skipped a year.
enters-
Toby cute.
Now that would explain his levels of genius.
He is
Yeah.
incredibly
He's
incredibly
incredibly
intelligent.
gifted.
Not only does he know how to cook 3-course breakfasts for his father,
Yes, he
he
does.
knows advanced training techniques.
Yeah, he
Trigonometry,
He knows trigonometry,
and he got his GED.
and
And he knows aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics.
Yeah.
also he is able to fend for himself because he's constantly left alone at home.
Well, he's a victim of circumstance there.
Right.
It's true. He just can't stand up to the bullies. That's literally his only weakness.
Because he's got a second grader's body, and those third graders are really, really big. They've got another year.
I
on them.
would imagine.
Did you find his body proportions super weird?
No,
Like,
it was okay. So the manga was definitely playing the sympathy card here. With
Oh,
Kazuma,
God, yeah.
putting him in like he looks like a character straight out of Doraemon or something like that. Like
I know,
they
he
get
looks
very
like a
cute with him.
Dragon Ball. Like, if you look at his
Ah.
proportions, it's
Yeah, he
very,
does.
like, young Goku.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do find him very cute, and he was absolutely the reason this manga made me have so many lumps in my throat.
He is absolutely the
consistently.
best character, and the good news is that he
by far.
is Marathon Man.
He gets to live. That's the
He
good
gets
news, I
to
guess.
live, and he.
Katsuma had to die so that Kazuma could live.
We will get into that, but let's talk about this next
All right.
question. Yeah, so Kazuma is the one who basically pulls his dad out of this funk that he's been in for the past 7 years, puts him back on track for at least some modicum of success, right? So I want to ask you here. We talked about Katsuma's ex-wife, but who do you think is the real villain in this story? Volume 1 sets it up like, oh, here comes the ex-wife coming back after like leaving their family, literally walking out, leaving a Dear John note, and then coming back 7 years later and being like, hey, I have established myself in my career. I'm now making enough money where I can come and take our son, my son, Kazuma, back, and you can go and do your own thing because you're a hopeless deadbeat drunk, and the courts will know who to award custody for this child. Now, is she the villain here, or is it Katsuma's own struggle with his alcoholic inner demons?
I think the real villain, as always, is society, man. Mm-hmm. Expectations being foisted upon people who just want to live, man, you know? Katsuma just wants to run. You know, that's all he wanted, but it just wasn't enough for some people.
Well, I think he got in his head, because then later it's explained that during the Osaka race, he just stopped running when he realized he wouldn't be number one, and then he was almost to the finish line, but he just like gave up and just looked up. And then he was
like, what am I going to do now? Now I got nothing to do.
He could be number 2.
He totally sabotaged himself in that respect. And then after that, apparently quickly became an alcoholic. I don't know.
It was a quick spiral down from there. I don't think they had mindfulness in the 90s yet.
It was definitely not invented yet. I think we also have to suggest that the Yakuza dude is a pretty good villain.
He could be the big bad.
It's almost like
bad.
It's almost like sorry, I forgot the mangaka's name.
Inoue
Sensei.
Masaharu.
Yeah, Inoue Sensei got to chapter 3 and was like, yeah, I don't know if Miyako's a convincing enough villain. We need to up the stakes a little bit here. So what could happen? Oh, I know.
I thought it was cheap.
It was super cheap. It was super
car
unearned.
accident was like such a cheap like plot thing.
In the space of like 5 pages, he suddenly is facing insurmountable financial challenges and no longer has a job.
Yeah.
So.
One false
I felt conflicted about the Miyako thing because like you don't want to hate her for trying to like live a life that she chose for herself, but also she's a really shitty person. You know, so it's like I mean, I don't want to I want her to be able to make her own choices.
Well, I mean, like there are like I have heard stories of like, you know, mothers walking out and it's like a bad situation. But, you know, they usually have guilt, and, like, apparently she just has absolutely no guilt. And she
does seem to be a sociopath.
She buried that guilt a long time ago.
Like, a cartoon villain. So it's, like, not even convincing.
Yeah. I can't take her seriously at all.
Like, her line where it's like, I just went on a 7-year... like out to get cigarettes. That's all. And now I'm back.
I'm ready to be back in the parenting
I'm ready to be back in the game.
I'm not convinced that she would be a better parent than Katsuma.
No, I think
they both seem
she would
like
be
terrible parents.
Yeah.
It's like this boy.
Kazuma is just cursed.
Yeah,
so,
he doesn't have good options.
Now that we know that Katsuma apparently dies, I want to know, does Miyako remain in the story?
It's a really good question.
Or does she like get reformed by like
We're not allowed to talk about that though because
we're not there yet. We'll save that to the end. Okay, so Miyako has been out of Katsuma and Kazuma's life for 7 years. She's doing her own thing. She's apparently working her way up the career ladder, and now she is an executive vice president. She is having a great time, making a lot of money, smoking as many cigarettes as she wants, and she's ready to come back and have a family. Now, she can't just roll up into Kazuma's life because, one, she left when he was 1 year old. And I don't know about you guys, but I've got 2 kids, and I remember when I had a 1-year-old, one time we were playing together in the morning, having a good time with Purareru. Then I went out and I got a haircut. And when I came back...
Was it a 7-year-long haircut?
No, it was about an hour and a half. It was a respectable haircut. Then I came back that afternoon, and my son was just bawling. Like, who is this person? No, get him away from me. So there's no way, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Kazuma-san remembers who his mom is. And then on top of that, Katsuma told him that his mom is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he believes it.
And he believes it, because, like, who is going to doubt what your dad says?
Yeah.
Okay, by the way, I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk about it. I wanted to say shout out to Kazuma's teacher. She was a real badass lady, actually.
She was.
She had this one scene where she was just laying all the
She's
truth
like one of
bombs
those 90s teachers that cares.
She was
Totally.
Kinpachi Sensei or, I don't know, GTO.
Yeah,
like
just,
that.
I was gonna
just
say
those,
GTO.
like teachers that get involved.
But the point is, she was like, I know that Kazuma's mother isn't dead.
Yeah,
Anyone could
pardon
find
me.
that
I did a
information
little
out."
bit of research. Like, what did
she's
she like go down to City Hall and like, hey,
Yeah,
can
she
you?
did because there was no internet. So.
There
That
was
is
no internet.
dedication.
That is
She needs a
dedication.
hobby. Anyway,
She could take up running. She'd be great.
yeah. Well, I mean, she does come back into Kazuma's life, right? The mother, Miyako.
She does.
And,
She does. And she shows up with the Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
come on now.
pretty dope.
Pretty
That's
dope.
pretty underhanded.
In
You
1993.
can't say no to that.
Yeah. So, would you have accepted a Super Nintendo from a stranger who claimed to be a family friend
Yes.
in 1993? Alex?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Abs-
Yes.
Yeah. Even if it was something like you had never known before, if like someone's just like,
I
hey,
didn't know. I don't know like anyone in my family because like my dad's from Italy, and so I barely saw
Before
like,
the internet.
many relatives. So yeah, I had no idea who most people were related to me.
But
so
presents,
if they
bring 'em on.
if they handed me a Nintendo, I would be like, yes, of
welcome
course.
to the family.
Zia,
So-
Zio, whatever. I'm sure.
I never thought about this before, but much like Kazuma, I was 8 years old in 1993.
I know. Isn't this the best
And-
part? We could have been Kazumas.
So now look, let's clarify things a little bit. If a smelly, raggedy looking man came out of a van and was like, "Hey kid, you want a Super Famicom?" I might be like, probably no, thank you. But if like a very affluent looking, sparkly woman came up to me and
She's very
said,
sparkly.
"Hello.
A lady of the lake.
Here is a Super Famicom for you," I would be like, fucking awesome, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. May I have another?
And here, look, when I was 8 years old, I asked for a Super Famicom because I knew I wanted one. And my dad, in his wisdom, went to the store and he was like, the guy at the store said the Sega Genesis is better. So I got one of those
Oh.
instead. And I was
You
just
went
like,
to Best Buy.
You were a
And I
Sega
f-
kid.
well, it scarred me for life. So,
I mean, I feel like those kids are just a bit alternative.
but you're thinking of kids who intentionally chose the Genesis
Okay,
lifestyle.
okay.
I had the Genesis lifestyle thrust upon me.
I see.
I
Just like Kazuma.
specifically wanted a Super Famicom. So yes, if a woman looking like that showed up and said, "Hello, I'm your father's friend and I have for you a Super Famicom," I would be like, "This is the best day of my life so far."
I also loved how they could just use the word Famicom in the manga. Like, I think if
Yeah.
this were now, they would change it to
Yeah,
like
it
something
would be
else.
like a Femi, like
Femi
Cam
song or something. Yeah,
I
Cam.
am sure that Nintendo must have been giving the magazine some amount of money because there's like 5 mentions of Famicom and Super Famicom
Yeah.
in like the first 2 chapters.
It could have been Famicom, man. It would have been a very different
Yeah,
story.
they probably just heard of stealth marketing, and then they're like, "Hey, we could do this in our own."
Just put this into all the manga stories in the early
Yeah.
90s.
It did feel a little bit, intentional to me, but also I was totally cool with it because I was like, I also love Super Famicom. Tell me more.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Okay. And then, just pull back all these smoke and mirrors. Miyako, she's got a career. There's no way that she can be a stay-at-home mom.
No.
And I think she's going to have a really hard time doing this parenting thing all by herself. Do you think that this could be all an elaborate ploy by Kazuma's ex-wife to get the family back together again?
No.
No, I don't think so.
She seems to really hate.
Yeah, she seems to really hate him.
There's genuine loathing in her voice.
And
They
there's like
meet each other in a taxi.
Yeah, they met each
and she's
other.
like,
He's
"You
the
suck.
driver."
Yeah.
Here's some money, asshole. I don't even want any
Yeah.
change.
Just
Bye."
get out of my
wasn't
life.
the guy she went in that was like her boss?
That was her
seemed
boss.
like, and it seemed like he wanted to marry her.
He did, but she needed to go back and get her son, and she needed him to
Yeah.
understand
So
that.
she's
She
like
needed
already
time.
got lined up,
Yeah.
a whole new life.
Okay.
She does.
I
She
don't
doesn't
even think
need
she-
no scrub.
hanging out the passenger side of his own
Yeah.
taxi.
We were trying. I'm
Trying
trying
to
to bring
holler
it
at
back
me.
to the '90s, right?
I like that. I
It
like
was
it.
a very 90s centric episode.
I
this
do want to know what she wants Kazuma for. Like, does she just view being a mother who also has a career as just like a status thing?
Oh, I know the answer to this one. She's got to win, man. Miyako has won at everything since day one.
She's
The
so
only
She
thing
didn't
she
win at her first marriage.
Yeah, the only
Yeah,
thing she lost at was at her marriage, and now she's trying to come back and get a little bit of the R word on these kids. Revenge.
No.
She will have
some
hers.
W's.
When she's watching the Fukuoka Marathon, like from her simulcast
Yes.
remote TV, like she was, just 90s villains vibe there all over. Just
It was.
Shivers.
She should have had like a Persian cat that she was like
Persian
stroking.
That's
Dr.
exactly-
Claw. Okay, well, so she's obviously a terrible person with serious flaws. I mean, she might have some redeeming qualities. We just didn't get into them in Volume 1. And then you have Katsuma, who, I mean, he's got a wonderful track record with professional running, but at the
You've
same
been making a lot of good low-key running jokes all throughout this episode. I just want to say I can't tell if you even mean to be doing it, but that's
just gets
the
in your
fourth one.
blood or
Running
something.
on the brain.
Do
great.
I ever? But also, he has serious problems with addiction. He can't even remember his son's like parent-teacher day or whatever it is, Sankambi, when you go to school and watch. He's clearly an imperfect father. Now, if you were
Very
Kazuma,
generous of you. Yeah.
which would you choose? Because they say that, look, if this is going to become a court thing and you're fighting over custody, with Kazuma's age, he can choose who he wants to go with. Alex, would you pick the mom or the dad?
This is like a very hard choice because they both
And it's going to
suck.
affect the rest of your life.
They both really suck. So I think it would depend on who the mom remarries with.
Who's going to be the dad? That's big.
Because it doesn't look like Katsuma's gonna get any ladies anytime soon. So if you want like the full, because like you can't depend on him or her. See, I feel like you need another person in the mix to like make it dependable. So I don't know. Like, I mean, in real life I've never had to deal with this actual tough choice.
Thank
but,
goodness.
Yeah, but in this like fictional universe, both choices are pretty terrible. Yeah, and I feel like Katsuma's already like gambled away any money for Kazuma's future.
Yeah, no, there's nothing
yeah.
there.
So,
There's no nest egg.
there's nothing. Yeah.
But Kazuma realizes that early on, and that's why he's working so hard for a scholarship.
I finished reading this manga, Volume 1, and I was washing the dishes today, and I was like, wait a minute, so he doesn't have a job anymore. The local, like, shopkeepers are buying him running gear.
Well, his unemployment
Did
insurance is tiding them
Yeah,
over.
but did you like
Yeah,
notice how the shopkeepers were like, "Sorry for calling you a loser and drunken all the time"?
Yeah,
And, like, a drunken
the
loser.
liquor shop.
When they,
like the
when, they
entire
first show
neighborhood.
up, when they first showed up, I thought they were going to say, hey, thank you for keeping us in business, man. We really miss you.
Come on
But
back.
we hear you're running now, so take this gift from us, but please also come back and be our customer once again. If you're an 8-year-old boy, you're gonna make the stupid choice of staying with your Make Inu loser daddy, right? Like,
that's all you know.
unfortunately, that's just what you're gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, I
Because the
felt
kids
like
at school
he would,
think he's
obviously.
cool now all of a sudden. And that's how you make decisions as an 8-year-old. If you have, I know how the world looks now in 2023. I'm exactly the same age as Lil Kazuma. If I had the benefit of hindsight and wisdom, of course living with the mom would be way better, because having financial freedom makes your life so
having
much
a bit
easier.
of stability.
It opens up doors. Yes, absolutely.
Also, in his favor, Kazuma is clearly very capable of taking care of himself, so it's not like he really needs his mom to be around anyway. But yeah, so unfortunately, that's the correct answer. Sorry, Kazuma.
Well, I think one of the most powerful scenes in Volume 1 is when, the dad comes back from his talk with the teacher after little Kazuma's had a fight at school, and and the dad goes to school, talking to the teacher. He's like, "Oh, I can't believe that my son would hurt another person's child. I mean, that's not how I raised him. I am going to go home and I will teach him what for." And the teacher is basically like, "Look, no, I don't think you have what." Gives you the right to teach
Sir, you reek of alcohol.
So, yeah, so are you drunk right now? I'm just like, excuse me, but I've done a little digging into your personal affairs, and I know that your wife is not dead, and like everything you say is a lie. And so then he comes back home, and Kazuo, like, who knows? Oh, because he got drunk too, because he went home and he went to work, and then he got in the accident, and then he lost his job and got fired, so he was drinking, and then he comes back late at night. I'm just glad that he made it back home, right? Because he's got an 8-year-old kid. I mean, you should come back home if you have young children in the house. Yeah. Ideally, especially if you're a single parent. And his son has taken down his box of memorabilia, which is the only thing that Katsuma keeps from his former life. From his former life when he was happy, when he still had hopes and dreams. And it's got newspaper clippings. They're like internet articles, but they were printed on paper for our young listeners, with pictures of him winning marathons, like his former past glory. And his son is discovering this for the first time. It's like, my dad was cool. He was a champion runner. And then on page 42, I don't know if like he spilled some water on his face, but Kazuma has like fallen asleep and his like eyes are full of water.
There's so much Ghibli crying in this.
There's a lot of Ghibli crying.
There's a lot of Ghibli waterways. I mean, I cried too. Actually, I didn't know if it was my tears on this. It was like,
no, it's this manga so successfully preys on daddy melodrama. Like the feeling of your child having feelings for you when you're not around. It's just, and like needing to protect them, and like the scene where they just finished like their first running training, and Katsuma like can barely stand up anymore, and he's like collapsing to the ground, and Kazuma just comes up and gives him a little pat on the head and says yosh yosh, and then they hug. I was just like, ooh.
Me too.
Sobbing like an
son
idiot.
would never. I don't think he would do that for me, but
I think
he did,
I think you need to be a dad, because like I didn't cry
You do.
at all. but I always cry at like because like I really like, I guess I was like a daddy's girl, so like whenever there's like movies about like dad and daughter bonds, I'm always like crying like crazy, because my dad would always cry, like no matter how stupid the plot was, he would always cry at like daughter dad stories. And like,
well, that's
even,
the reason.
Kurt, what was it, like Herbie the Love Bug or something? That's like a terrible movie, and he was like, just like bawling. This is great. Yeah, he's like crying because it's like dad and daughter
cannot get through the first act.
Yeah.
That's the reason why every AAA video game now is about a sad dad trying to protect his daughter from the apocalypse or whatever.
I guess like these kind of like things
This
really
won't be the
like
last of us.
if you're part of that relationship, you're like completely like, it doesn't matter how dumb or melodramatic anything is. You're like,
I mean, it kept me
can get
reading
behind
this
it.
boring ass manga about marathon running. That's how powerful those tropes are.
Exactly.
to be
No,
honest.
the marathon wasn't even the important thing, to be honest,
No.
which is something that I want to dive into. But before we get there, I want to ask you, Jason, is there, you have children. Is
do.
there anything that your children might discover about your past accomplishments that would make them think of you as a superhero?
Yeah, I was thinking about that actually as I was reading this, and I think the answer is probably no. But there's probably a ton of stuff that they would discover about me and think like, oh, I never would have expected him to do that, right? Like, I acted in a bunch of films in university.
Oh, wow.
You know, I was like a little bit of an actor. I did some stage acting stuff. I was in a... separately from that, I was in a rap group for a while.
Oh my god!
Our music got played on a radio station in LA.
Together.
No, we should have. Money on the ground there.
Well, it's not too late, you know. I was in a taiko drum group for several years. So, like, I did all this stuff. I guess I've been in the newspaper, but, like, I don't think they would see any of that and go, like, oh my God, our dad is so cool. I think they'd just be like, what the hell was he doing that for? Like, I thought he just likes to read books and take naps. Like, I think children are always a bit surprised when they discover that their parents had lives before they existed.
Before the predator, yeah.
Yeah, before. So I don't know. I don't know if it would be anything. Winning a marathon's pretty badass.
That is pretty badass. Yeah, not many people can do that.
Quite like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I published some articles online. Maybe they'll find some of those.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, Alex, what about you? Is there? I know you might have children now, but in the future, is there anything that if you did have kids, they might find out about you that was super badass and they would think of you as a hero for it?
Yeah, I don't know about a hero, but I mean, I always thought it's like my parents were in international marriage, and they met in a country that wasn't actually related to either of them, and like I always thought that was super cool, and it made me want to go. Yeah, it's very romantic, and it made me want to go abroad and live in a foreign country, and then I'm doing that right now. So I hope that if I have a child, they would think it's cool that I left my home country and like forged a new life. I don't know. Do your kids think that's cool at all, or they're just like, what's America or what's Canada?
My kid, my eldest son, who's 5, talks about America all the time.
Oh, really?
He talks about 3 countries: America, Tokyo, and Sapporo. And he says, when we're in Tokyo, please speak to me in Japanese. But no, he's very cognizant of America, and I'm always like, do you want to go to America? And he says, yes, of course. And I was like, why do you want to go? And he says, so he can ride on Narita Express when he comes back.
That's the best part. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, like my daughter is always like, yo, Canada rules. We got to go back to Canada. I love Canada, and if I ever ask her like, what do you like about Canada, all she talks about is the one playground near my parents' place.
I bet it's an awesome playground though.
It's a very good playground. They don't even live there anymore, so like
you have to make a special trip.
If we, it's like
maybe there's a bigger, better playground to be discovered.
You could argue that Canada itself is one large playground to be discovered.
Many people have argued that and lost.
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to stop me from trying. My kids definitely think about Canada as like this fantasy land that they will go to again someday. Yeah. But I can't really understand what their image of it is.
Well, I think when they get older, maybe they'll like understand the significance of like leaving behind everything you knew.
Yeah, I hope they get curious about that and like try to wrap their heads around it. I'm sure they will at some point.
It is definitely romantic. I think they got to maybe when they're 8 they'll understand. Okay,
along with so many things.
With so many things, like why mommy had to go.
Why mommy had to go.
Okay, so another reason that I picked this manga, which is, let's be honest, a little bit obscure. One of the things that we've been talking about is that the great thing about Japanese comics is that they cover almost anything. There's basically pick any theme, pick any topic. There's basically a manga about that. Now, in Western comics, I mean, there's a lot of diversity, but there's not a lot of like everyday type like melodrama stuff. I think Archie kind of ruined it for everyone, and after that, they just had to stop. Not that I'm aware of, at least. But what do you think about Marathon Man? Do you think that it proves that any theme can be turned into a successful manga series? I mean, it had 19 volumes, and it put Inoue Sensei on the map, so good for him. Or is this a classic example of why manga should stay in its lane? Alex, I want to hear from you.
I didn't think that this was the most ambitious, like, thing. I don't know, the way that you asked the question made it seem like running. However could that be dramatic? And I don't know, I feel like it could be dramatic. So
totally.
like competitive like omelet cooking, like that would be like, wow, you can make a manga out of anything. Or like, I don't know, competitive like dreaming or something like that.
The science of sleep?
That's kind of manga about people learning to do astral projection?
Yeah, something like that.
I would read that
like there's
for
so
one
many,
volume
like,
and then go, this is boring.
random things you could make manga about that would seem like wow, there could be a story like centered around this thing that seems totally off the wall. But I don't know, running doesn't seem like that off the wall. So it's like, yeah, of course, there's gonna be a marathon manga.
Yeah, like there's a certain amount of discussion in this book about like the mechanics of running, which I'm sure is interesting to somebody.
I thought that was the
not
sports manga
to
trope.
me. Yeah,
The lung capacity thing was a bit like, is that something people really do?
it is, and like
okay.
the different kinds of strides and stuff like that. Like I've heard Malcolm Gladwell talk about like how fascinating long distance running is to him, and I'm just like, whatever, dude. I don't know.
Well, he's obviously read Marathon Man.
I think it's one of the works that inspired him. He's talked about it at length. He identifies strongly with Cosmo's struggle. I don't know. The question for me doesn't really work because should manga stay in its lane? I mean, manga's lane is everything. That's what is great about manga. So this is far from like the most outlandish example of, the topic for a manga series. I found it personally extremely boring, but I'm sure for lots of people, the reason it works is because it's got the emotional melodrama up front. If you slap that onto a story about like a tax accountant, I would be like, what's gonna happen with Lil? So
I mean, yeah, like tax
You
is
stick
very
that on
dramatic. I mean,
can
I
be.
watched that movie that won what's it called, Oscar recently, and that was very dramatic with taxes. So
Everything,
mean
Anywhere,
Wolf of
all at
Wall
one
Street?
time?
yeah, everything everywhere.
Yeah, not the Wolf of Wall Street, which is about tax from a different angle.
Yeah, from a different angle, but
I famously have never seen any movies. So there are two things I don't know anything about: history and movies.
Well, you have to get on an airplane.
I used to watch movies on airplanes, but now we're not allowed to fly anywhere anymore.
oh,
You've lost access to your theater. Okay. Well,
I once watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on a flight to Germany, and then I watched it again on the flight back because I liked it that much.
Wow.
Thank you.
This was a
If
really
you
good
haven't
movie.
seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's one of Tarantino's best movies. Thank
So
you.
nice, I watched it twice.
It's very good.
Okay. Well, let's kind of dig back into this. Jason, here's a question for you. You mentioned
Okay.
that this is a story that really, I mean, it basically pulls all the heartstrings that it can, and it pulls really, really hard. If you could compare this story to a genre of television, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I mean, the tempting thing is to say, like, a soap opera or something like that. But to me, what it felt most like watching is, do you remember, like, VH1, Where Are They Now?
Of course.
Those, like, shitty documentary shows where they, like, recycle the same
Takagi Kasuma. He placed first in the Fukuoka International Marathon.
And then
Just when it seemed that his life couldn't sink any lower.
Dum dum dum.
And then like an
Katsuma threw
interview
up
with
in an
Miyako. He's such a loser. I can't believe I married that man.
Cigarette.
Yeah. And it felt like that to me. And it like even down to how in those shows there would be like, coming up after the break, and it would show you like the clip that would happen after the commercial break, right before the commercial break. So it would be the exact same clip, before and after the commercials.
That's how they stretch those out to 27 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do in this manga. Like the last frame of each, or the last panel of each chapter is the first panel of the next chapter.
Yeah,
Continuity, yeah.
So it's just real 90s storytelling.
It is. It's 90 at its finest. And just to take this back to where we started. So at the end of Volume 1, you are halfway through the Fukuoka International Marathon. Katsuma has come back from a slow start. He had forgotten how to run. He was a little bit psyched out, whatnot, but then he remembered his training with his son. Remember your training. And then he does this amazing long stride, and he uses the power of the wind to put himself in first place. And he's neck and neck with the guy who is basically the number one seed, like the most expected to win the race athlete. And then
We should say we're currently breaking format. Can we edit this in? Mark, note to all regular Mangaroos listeners, the events described here do not take place within Volume 1. Thank you. Listener discretion is advised. Please continue, Mark.
he wins the race. He wins Fukuoka Marathon.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
not surprised, but yeah.
He goes on to win multiple races.
Whoa.
He goes on to win multiple marathons. And then he and Kazuma are doing so great. And Miyako is just like burning with envy. He's like, the Olympics are coming up. I'm just going to be another Abebe, and we are going to win the Olympics. And that's where it's going.
High.
He is shooting as high as the moon, and he makes it to this international race in Paris. And
Mark, have you read this entire series?
No, I've only read volume 1, but I read a bunch of spoilers. So, because I wanted to find out what happened. So he makes it to this international race in Paris. That's basically like the marathon senshuken for the Olympics, like the one of the ones that really decides like who's going to make it to the Olympics that year.
The qualifiers.
Yeah. And
I hope that every other runner has their 8-year-old coach with them at this qualifier.
Just whistles
and they
everywhere.
Whistles everywhere.
Beep, beep.
That was a thing in the 90s. Like, really, the father-son bond was strong. No, but he makes it, and he's doing amazingly. But because he is so old, and he has pushed his body to the absolute limits, right at the finish line, of the Paris Marathon, he has a heart attack and dies instantly.
That is so cool. That is like so melodramatic.
Melodramatic. And then
wow.
It is such a shock to Kazuma, little baby Kazuma, that he goes back to Japan, one, an orphan, because his mom is out of the picture.
Who would allow an 8-year-old to fly alone?
Well, and then he gets real sad inside, and a bunch of stuff happens, and he goes to kid jail or whatever it is, and he becomes like a delinquent. But then he comes back and he discovers his joy.
His mom doesn't rescue him from kid jail.
I don't know. There wasn't.
Does that mean there are chapters of Marathon Man that are just about a troubled delinquent causing grief?
I think so. Yeah, it could.
Because I would read those.
Yeah, it's JoJo.
No, it is wild, and this is around the same time that JoJo was at. So but he goes on to rediscover his joy of running, and one of his running senpai that he meets in high school is named Mamo, and then they go on to win many races until something bad happens again, and then he gives up running and he goes to Hokkaido to be a taxi driver and an alcoholic. But yes, he is the original Marathon Man. We won't go any farther than that. 19 volumes. They're all out there. Go and check them out.
Available for free online manga.
Yeah.
Available for free online manga. It just takes a little bit of time. Just go and get it. No, that also might have affected my decision why I went with this one.
You're like, hey, free manga.
Free manga. We'll look at this one. Okay, so I wanted to ask you both. On a scale of 1 to 42.191 kilometers, how would you rate this manga? Alex, you first.
I said a solid 30 kilometers because, it was like the story was...
That's not so low.
It was predictable. Like, I think it's like very average. It's average entertainment.
That's fair.
Very like stereotypical, a little bit predictable. Although maybe it isn't so predictable in the future events. Although I could see the heart attack for the qualifier for the Olympics.
36.
Because they were setting it up a lot about how he's near his deathbed at the age of 36. So I guess
my favorite was the guy out front of the gym who's like, "You've really let your body go to shit, dude. You should probably get a membership here."
So mean.
But Katsuma is drawn exactly the same way in panel 1 of volume 1 as he is.
Nothing really changes.
He looks exactly the same. We went this entire episode.
Muscles.
His leg muscles, do. And his high katsuryo, his lung capacity is really big.
I love that he never shaved his shitty alcoholic man beard. And also, I wanted us to talk about how I think every single chapter of this manga has multiple panels where Katsuma is just doing confused Keanu Reeves face.
Yes.
Like he's very bewildered by very common things.
The reactions in this manga,
very good.
They add a lot. Even though it's like very stereotypical, like this mangaka is really good at drawing reactions.
Miyako has only one facial
She only has
expression,
one
which is
facial
a
expression.
sneer, a villain sneer, and Katsuma's only reaction is, huh?
Okay, Jason, how many kilometers would you give this manga?
I don't know. Let's say like 19.
19.
Wow, you said that mine was low?
Yeah.
You bring it
But I
down
thought
low.
about it. You're right. It wasn't that low.
30 is pretty good. I thought you guys were going to be way harsher.
I liked as cheesy and
If I was a
melodramatic and
teacher,
stupid.
I think I would give it a C+.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah.
It's
That's
no,
what I
but
was thinking.
I liked it more than I should have. My brain was telling me not to enjoy this, but my heart was saying, "But I can't stop."
I can't stop.
I mean, the melodrama, it's like, it gets you every time. Yeah,
It
as you were
does.
It really
saying,
does.
Like,
I want to locate a paper copy of Volume 1 so that I can leave it to my children. And they will only discover it after I'm dead. And I'll just leave a note in it that said, "Never doubt how much Daddy loved you." And then, you know what I
I
mean?
think there's better. I think there's better media you could leave
No.
for that, really.
No. Nothing I've encountered better encapsulates the love of a father for their children than Marathon.
It is a very mirror of parental relationships. Oh my gosh. Okay, so who is one person in your life that absolutely needs to read this? Alex, this is you first.
I don't think I know someone that needs to read this. Sorry,
I haven't met them yet.
I haven't met them yet. Well, you
But
know
when
what
I
needs
do-
to read is any alcoholic father who has sole custody of his child.
And is fluent in Japanese.
And is fluent in Japanese and needs a wake-up call.
It needs a wake-up call to
Hey, bud.
change your ways.
Like, yeah, I know you gotta sift through some marathon stuff here, but I think this is gonna really help you out.
Yeah, like, you need to
that-
turn your life around. This is very like after-school special about like the dangers of alcoholism and gambling.
Yep.
So like anyone who needs to hear that story, they should read this story.
William Howard Taft. Jason, what about you? Who needs to read this story in your life?
My children, but only after I'm dead.
Only
That's
after
my
you're dead.
answer.
And not a minute before. Thank you both for going through this thought exercise with me. It's been an absolutely incredible wild ride. This concludes our sports arc on Mangaroos. Next week we're going to be diving into a new arc. And Alex, I believe you have the next pick.
So next time on Mangaroos, we're going to delve into our next theme, which is suspense, just something that I enjoy. And my pick was Chi no Wadachi, Blood on the Tracks in English. It has English, by Shuzo Oshimi.
Yeah.
Can't wait
Super
to read
excited.
it.
This has been on my to-read list for literally years. And so thank you for picking this. I've already read the first chapter.
Oh, wow.
I'm extremely creeped out already.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can imagine. Like I read what is it? Like online, you know, they usually let you read the first chapter for free.
yeah,
And yeah, I read that and I was like, okay, I want to read more.
totally. I'm on board. I don't know how this goes for 15 volumes, but I'm definitely intrigued to find out. So
To-chan ganbare.
if you want to get
I
in
think it's
touch
like
with us,
Kachan Gambare.
if you want to email me a pair of little runner's shorts that says Gambare Tolchan on the butt, you can do that at mangaroospodcast@gmail.com. We are ostensibly on social media at Mangaroos, but who knows? Maybe we will be more by the time you hear this. But we do want to hear from you, so also consider leaving us a review on your podcast service of choice, because that helps other people find Mangaroos, and then we have more friends to talk about manga with.
More ruse. Think of this as a marathon.
It's not a sprint, that's for damn sure.
This has been another exciting episode of Mangaroos. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you all have a happy race and this wonderful marathon we call life.
Gambare Tolchan.
Faito. Oh wait, actually, I forgot the title already. Sorry. I had looked it
Edit
up.
that out.
I had looked it up.
Chi no wadachi ne.
Oh, okay. That one.
Blood on the tracks.
Blood on the tracks. Like I just wanted a suspense. Like I actually like suspense a lot, so yeah, I just wanted to propel us into suspense. And I didn't actually have a book lined up, so that's why I had looked that one up, but like not very extensively to remember anything about it. So I can't tell you the author, but maybe Jason knows the author.
I do. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wait, you have it. Do you have it?
You have it? I've got it too. I've got it right here.
Oh wow. Like I've yet to get it. I'm so unprepared. Sorry.
Jung.
Oh, wow, you got it. Looks beautiful.
I've already purchased volume 1. Let me see if I can read the author's name. Nope, I don't know how to read the kanji. Well,
anyway,
let's
in
find
the next
out.
episode, let's find out what the author's name is.
No, wait. Okay, I got it open here in front of me. I got this Wikipedia thing here. Okay,
We're using the internet.
please edit all of this out so that we don't all sound like
Actually,
complete idiots.
we should probably redo this.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.